Hello and welcome to the next video in my in-depth chapter commentary for Knights Without Kings. Today we're going to be talking about Chapter 5 and Chapter 6 of the novel Knights Without Kings. So if you haven't read the book yet, it's available on Amazon and on Kindle and paperback, so go ahead and take a look at that if you'd like to, because there are going to be spoilers ahead. This is an in-depth commentary, and I'm going to go through every single plot point and little, piece of trivia or reference and explain to you what they mean and explain what some certain scenes mean and with certain characters. So I'm going to be going in depth with this. So again, if you haven't read it or are interested in reading it, don't click on this, don't watch this video, click away to some other content that I have. But if you don't mind and you already watched the other videos on this in-depth commentary, then hey, sit down, relax, and let's do this. So chapter 5 is called The Harlot Queen, and basically what harlot means is prostitute. And I'm going to explain a little bit in detail what that means when we get to the point that references this title chapter, I suppose. So the Harlot Queen is like the prostitute queen, and the questions that I want you to be thinking is why that name? Why does this person have this title? And just keep that in mind. The song that I attributed to this chapter is called To Pluto's Moon, and this is a little snippet of it.
But you came and you went.
The song is a little bit melancholic, obviously. You came and you went, and the lights went off. So, I mean, it's kind of... This song is meant to mimic what King Aland was going through when the queen left him. So, that's what the song is. That's what the song being attributed to this chapter means. And I'm not going to do this with every single chapter because I feel like some of them are self-explanatory, but this is an important song to go to this chapter. It's an important chapter in this series because we're delving a little bit into why the queen left. Anyways, let's get back to the story. So Bendrick, Corhus, and Sieglin leave Thalin's place, and they leave Flodden, and finally they enter the Gahadran, and they're on their road to the city of Ivatera when they're attacked by a group of bandits. Now, they're able to scare off the majority of them because Corhus kills one of the bandit leaders, like in a swift motion. It catches everybody by surprise, and so they are able to actually fend off these group of bandits by only killing one guy. But then a boy stays behind and recognizes Bendrick and says, "You're the Roval God Reaper," and tries to kill Bendrick. But obviously this kid isn't experienced. His battle tactics are very much disoriented and just out of rage, and Bendrick quickly disarms him and knocks him out and then leaves him on the side of the road. The reason this is important is because he shows up later, and this first meeting is eventful for another meeting that happens later on. So I'm kind of, again, sowing the seeds of a plot, just, hey, this is something, little tidbit that will be important later on. So after this point, Bendrick is a little bit obviously sad because he's like, yeah, I'm still... of that night, those choices that I made are still coming to haunt me. And that's kind of the thing I was going for, is even small choices or choices that may seem unimportant to you, they're going to come back and haunt you for a long time to come, and that's kind of the thing I'm highlighting here, is this choice that Bendrick made a long time ago, essentially, more than 20 years ago during the last big war. He's still paying the price even now, even in small ways like this. Meeting a character and having to knock him out essentially because this character would die to kill him. Anyway, they finally arrive in Ivatera and they meet Audrey, the queen's bastard sister. And this meeting is a little bit important. Her name actually used to be Alvina, but then I changed it to be Audrey, just to make it a little bit more normalized, to maybe make it more relatable. Having her named Alvina was too many Dark Souls references in one chapter, so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to give a better name for it, and that's the character's name now, is Audrey. She's not terribly important. Again, I'm still sowing a lot of seeds here. It's the first 5 chapters, so I'm trying to make the story rich. And she may not be that important in the first and second book, but definitely in the third. So I've tried to introduce her early and try to make her important, a little bit relevant to this story here right now. And then Bendrick meets the queen, Gwendolyn Lafoyelle. So she isn't doing so hot. This is the first time we introduce and actually meet her as a character, as opposed to just seeing her far off and having her kill someone else. That this is the first time that you're in the same room and actually get to talk with her through Bendrick. And this is the culmination of the peace mission that Bendrick has. He tells her, hey, you can't do this, basically. This war, please rethink it. Like, think about the people's death. All their blood are going to be on your hands. And here, Gwendolyn insinuates that she is behind the death of her father, King Elmeric, and that all the power in Ivatera resides in her hands now. She is very bitter and resentful, you can tell, and she's also beat up. She has scars. Her left eye is still very much swollen, and she says it's a miracle that she can still see out of it. And here we see a little bit of what King Aelin did to her in that time. That I insinuate here that he beat her up, that she almost lost her eye, and she's got scars on her face. Even though she has makeup on, you can still see the scars. So I wanted to showcase a little bit of that. And then she asked Bendrick what nickname they used in Wezerith, what they used to call her. And here's where they called her. He responds, they called you the Harlot Queen. And here I showcase the attitude that most Wezerithians had towards Gwendolyn. Yeah, she was pretty. Yeah, she came from Ivatera, but they hated her for it. They loved King Aelin, and they didn't think he needed a queen. Because think about it, Wezerith had won every single war they'd been in. So the attitude that the Wezerithians had were very much arrogant. They were very much proud, saying we can defeat anybody we want to at any moment. They're a very rich society, and seeing King Aelin marry Queen Gwendolyn instead of another Wezerithian made them bitter against the Ivaterans. And let's not set aside the fact that Ivaterans hate Wezerithians anyway. They have a special nickname for the Ivaterans. They call them sparrows. So in my story, it's culturally derogatory to call an Ivateran a sparrow, because that's on their flag, is a sparrow basically. But the way they use it, anybody else calling an Ivateran a sparrow is like using the N-word. It's really bad, and Ivaterans are really sensitive about that word. So there's a general distaste between both peoples, between both countries. And here Gwendolyn says that she's renewed her faith in Orodmir, the god of the Ivaterans, and that it is his will for her to go to war against Wezerith and against King Aelin. She says their fate rests in Orodmir's hands, but then she reveals a more truer reason as to why she's doing what she's doing. She's pregnant, and the father isn't King Aelin. So this is kind of where the little bit of the truth comes out, that maybe she is a Harlot Queen, that despite that horrible nickname given to this person, maybe there is some truth to it. Now that's up to the reader to decide. I'm not telling you that you should look at it this way, but this is a little bit about what I was going for. She doesn't reveal who the father is to protect the identity. Now the reason I didn't reveal whose identity it was is because obviously I'm saving it for a plot twist later on. But you don't have to wait too long. It's just like 2 chapters, and then I reveal who the father is, and it's a big... all of my beta readers were shocked at this point in time, so I'm glad they will get that reaction, and I hope you do too when you read it. But Bendrick suspects it's Remy, a character who was revealed in Chapter 2. At this point, Bendrick realizes that the peace mission was a waste of time. So here, Gwendolyn reveals the catchphrase of the entire book. It's all becoming dark, so dark. So when I was originally doing the cover art, I was going to do entirely different cover art than what I went through with CreateSpace, and it was just too complicated. I kept on getting rejected for it. I had to give a new format, and I ended up going with just a general template for it. For the special editions that'll be coming out in like 2 or 3 years, or 4 years. I'm going to be redoing a lot of the cover art and making it more specialized, more interesting. And on the catchphrase, and each one is going to have a catchphrase. So the first one is going to be, it's all becoming dark, so dark, because that's what I intended it to be to begin with. And this is a quote that was said by Solaire of Astora from Dark Souls.
It's over. My son. It's setting. It's dark. So dark.
I wanted to mirror the same emotion that Solaire had in the video game. I wanted to mirror that to what Gwendolyn is feeling in this moment. So it's all becoming dark, so dark. Obviously, I'm doing it in a more obtuse way, but still, you get the idea. So Bendrick and his crew are allowed to leave Ivatera unharmed, but Korha suspects something fishy that's going on. They journey back to Wezarith, and the trip is relatively uneventful until they reach the Liedron Valley, where they were supposed to meet the king's armies. But then, just as they cross the gorge, they hear war horns. The Ivaterans have come, and they have brought war with them. So this is the end of chapter 5. So let's swing into chapter 6. Chapter 6, Mud and Blood. So the title is a reference to Berserk's Blood and Guts. And this is what it sounds like. At this point, Bendrick realizes that the mission was more than futile. The Ivaterans had already mobilized a division of the army to strike at Wezarith, and they knew where they were. Bendrick reaches the Wezarithian encampment, and rain is pouring down and lightning is flashing in the sky. The Ivaterans haven't attacked just yet, and Bendrick rushes into the king's tent. They're beginning to arm a defense, and William gives a snide comment about the mission and its failure, but there isn't any time. They have to make a decision. They have to act now. King Aeland leaves the tent to rally his troops, and Bendrick sits down to just take a breather. I mean, he's been riding hard for the last 3-4 weeks, and now they're just about to go to war, so he's just taking a quick moment to breathe. Then he feels something beside him, and he assumes it's Sieglind, but it's not. And here we meet for the first time a mysterious dark figure. Because of course there has to be a mysterious dark figure because it's a fantasy. Always, always. So this is the moment that I chose to introduce my shadowy, dark, mysterious figure. He says the phrase, "Thou who art demon art chosen to begin the world anew." So this is heavily foreshadowing what's to come in the arc that Bendrick is a part of, but it is also a reference to Dark Souls, thou who art undead art chosen.
There is an old saying in my family, "Thou who art undead art chosen, and thine exodus from the undead asylum maketh pilgrimage to the land of ancient lords. When thou ringeth the bell of awakening, the fate of the undead thou shalt know."
If you haven't figured it by now, Dark Souls is a huge influence on me, and I really like that video game, so this is just another reference to that. Bendrick wakes up and realizes he was sleeping, and Sieglind enters the tent with armor and weapons. She begins to arm herself, and Bendrick says, "No, you're not ready." She protests by saying, all that time spent training in the Athenaeum, what was that for if not for a moment like this? Sieglind prods him the wrong way and says something she probably shouldn't have, but this makes Bendrick so angry that he slaps her and breaks a few of her teeth. She calms herself and picks herself up, and this is the moment where there is a severing of the cord between Bendrick and Sieglind. She ceases at this point to be his pupil. She has now become her own woman. So she leaves and goes to fight, and Bendrick is super guilty about what he's just done. He realized how much Sieglind means to him, so he gathers the armor that she brought and grabs a weapon and rushes out to fight. Now, at this point, I wanted to showcase Bendrick as being a human, as making a mistake. I didn't want him to be... See, the last thing I wanted to do for a character is make him a Mary Sue, saying that he is always benevolent and always trying to make the right choice, and he's like the last hope for humanity. No, you're not going to find that here. My characters are fallible. Bendrick is fallible. Bendrick makes mistakes, and he makes bad ones, like slapping a woman. That's pretty bad. I wanted to showcase here that Bendrick, even though I don't think he's bad, he made a really bad choice, and he feels super bad about it. So that's kind of what I wanted to showcase, is just this reality of a person. You know, sometimes even good people can go to bad extremes, can even do bad things, and they don't mean to do it. They're not really bad people, but they just make a bad choice in that moment. And that's what I want to showcase here, is saying that, yeah, he's a good guy, but he made a bad mistake. So anyways, Bendrick goes out of the tent, and the Ivateran charge down through the valley has begun. Just as Bendrick leaves the tent, the Ivaterans have begun the charge, and by the time he gets to the front lines, the first wave is already met. The battle is raging on. But then Bendrick sees a wall of water crash through the valley. He and a lot of the Wezarithian men are taken in the flash flood, and something hits his chest, making him pass out. He wakes up at the edge of the valley, and there's still a lot of water on the battlegrounds, but the majority of the battle is over. The Ivateran army is mostly intact, as only it was the advancing line that was caught in the battle, and then caught in the flash flood. Now the Ivateran army is advancing in full force. Bendrick joins the remnant of fighters, but they are quickly overrun, and then a spear pierces his leg, forcing him to the ground. But in the confusion of the battle, a knight captain tears the spear from his leg, and then is able to save her own life by doing this. She stands up and thanks Bendrick, and then runs off to finish the fight. Now, whether it was due to the water in his lungs or the exhaustion of battle, Bendrick passes out once more. This time, when he wakes up, he sees that the battle is over. The Ivaterans have clearly beat the Wizerithians. He is being carried by a knight captain, and then he asks for Sieglind. He is brought to the healer's tent, and then it is revealed that the knight captain was Elamaya Farnes, our own Elamaya, and she leaves. At this point, the healer thanks Bendrick for saving Elamaya, but he is so confused as to what he is talking about. And this is a point where there's a big reason and why there's this confusion, why Bendrick doesn't know what they're talking about when they're thanking him for saving Elamaya's life. So he doesn't know exactly what they're talking about. And this is important, but it's addressed later on in the story. So when it's addressed again, that's when I'll explain it in detail. Keep it in mind, it is a very interesting piece of a puzzle. So then he passes out and remembers Sieglind's last words, but then he sees in his dreams sharp, jagged, white teeth and red glowing eyes as he passes out. So this is very important because it's also foreshadowing something else that's going to happen later on down the road of the book. So you're supposed to be a little confused here. You're supposed to be a little bit you're supposed to have questions as to what exactly that means, but trust me, as you read further along, it'll become clear what he saw in that darkness as he's passing out. So that's the end of chapter 6. So what did you think? Was there something that I missed? Was there something that I left out? If I did and you want me to talk about it or clear something up, please tell me in the comments down below. I'd love to know your thoughts. What did you think about the story up until this point? Was there something that you didn't like? Was there something that you did like? Again, I would love to know what you think. And if you haven't read it and you're interested in doing so, there's going to be a link down in the description. So again, it's Knights Without Kings. It's the first book in the Harmony of the Apostles trilogy, and it's written by me, J.M. Topp. You can call me Jonathan, though. The next 2 will be out next week, so stay tuned for that. So I just want to say, also as a little bit of a wrap-up, I have something special in store for this channel. It runs with Cusick Video, and I'm really excited to show you this passion project that I've been working on, and it's been in the works almost for about a year, but now it's finally coming to completion, and hopefully in the next 2 weeks it'll be out. And once that thing that rhymes with Cusick Video is out, I have in mind to start the beta process for the Twin Princes, which is the sequel to Knights Without Kings. So if you're interested in that, again, stay tuned and like and subscribe to just keep for updates on that if that's something that you're interested in. Well, thank you so much for watching, and you have an awesome day. And take it easy, okay? There's many crazy people out there. Just people don't know what they're doing sometimes and would hurt you instead of help you. And don't be one of those people. Remember to try to bring people up, encourage them on their path, and love on people, because I think that's the most important thing that we can do is show care for others around us. All right, so that's it, and you have a nice day, okay? See y'all in the next one.
This is it.
Bye.
There are so many things I wanted to tell you.